It seems that this is a time to take stock again. Trump is back, and we know what he thinks of the press, which is not favorable. Given what happened before, the press sort of formed itself as an opposition. What do you think is going to happen this time, and what should the press do?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, it's good to be back with you, Christiane. Always great to talk with you. And I think that the press should continue to do exactly, what we've done, which is that we're here to report. I really like Marty Baron's line, former editor-in-chief of the Washington Post, who said, they're at war, we're at work. We don't have a particular grievance or any particular orientation toward this administration. But our first allegiance is toward the facts and reporting the truth to our viewers, readers, subscribers, et cetera.
Yeah, without fear nor favor. Since you brought up Marty Baron, the esteemed, former executive editor, you have seen what's happening at the Washington Post right now. Literally a hosepipe of the most talented leaving, partly because of what has been termed, at least by the New York Times, anticipatory obedience. Basically suggesting that in all walks of life, bosses and others are pretty much bending over in loyalty to President Trump before he even asks. So Jeff Bezos and the others were criticized for giving in various ways. What should, the Washington Post expect, or any journalistic organization, from its leadership now?
Well, I don't know that it's anticipatory. We already have, background. We saw during, the first time around with Trump, the attempts to penalize news organizations by utilizing trust and antitrust laws about whether or not mergers would be approved by the federal government, whether or not the postal rates for Amazon would be changed. Blue Horizon, which is Jeff Bezos' space company, which depends heavily on government contracts. And, all those things came up during the first go-round. And so I think that they kind of understand how this game is played. Not coincidentally, there's, a $40 million offer for the biopic about Melania Trump's life, or the documentary about her. And so, you factor all those things in, and, it certainly appears that people are looking at how the bigger game is played. For people who are depending upon the Washington Post, or who have come to trust the Washington Post, it raises the question of whether or not this will impact, and the extent to which it will impact. I won't say whether or not, but the extent to which this will impact the editorial decisions that are made at that news organization. I think, when I've talked with people I know who are there, or who have history there, that has been one of the primary reasons for the exodus. That, they don't think that they'll be able to report in the manner in which, they would prefer.
I just want to point out that Trump did address the idea of free speech today during his virtual address to the World Economic Forum in Davos. And you heard him say, talk about it during his inaugural address. I'm going to play what he said, and then I want to ask you what you think he means by free speech.
In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress. We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly.
Okay, so Jelani Cobb, head of the Columbia School of Journalism, passed that for us, because he's basically saying, no, we don't need any weeding out of disinformation and misinformation. The subjects that have bedeviled the press for so many years now. What do you think he means?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, this is a war on facts. When people are saying misinformation and disinformation, this is not a kind of subjective evaluation. This is an evaluation that's made on the basis of facts, whether or not something is provably or demonstrably true or demonstrably untrue. And so if you believe that all these things are simply kind of, subject to your own whims and what you think, then it's easy to say that calling something misinformation or disinformation is censorship. By the way, that doesn't necessarily qualify as censorship. In any case, saying something, pointing out that something is untrue. People have a constitutional right to speak, and whether or not they're telling the truth is not determined by that. And then finally, I think that when we look at what's happened in the social media landscape, it's made it easier for the fire hose of untruth and propaganda to just simply spread. And we've seen what happened in the midst of COVID and the pandemic, and the kinds of false ideas that people had about the vaccines and about the nature of the virus and so on, and that there are real life consequences to this kind of bad information.